Yeah, this is actually a massive deal. The Biden administration has banned non-compete's YouTube channel. Luna Oi promises reprisal as the Vietnamese Navy mounts a counterattack. No, non-compete agreements, setting up legal showdown with business groups. So for those of you who don't know, in a lot of industries, and sometimes in like a weird number of industries, it's not that uncommon where there's a clause in a contract where if you leave your job, if you're fired or you quit or whatever else, you can't work for another company in that industry for a time. This is often in tech companies, but I've seen it employed in a lot of companies, and oftentimes they're used in a very, very abusive way, because it's basically saying you only have us. Like, if you leave this job, no matter how bad this job is, if you leave this job, you won't be able to get work elsewhere, because, I mean, what are you going to do, right? Like, this is your field. You're gonna go work at a fast food place, right? Like, well, if you're working in like a profession that has like a pretty high technical bar, they do it in fast food. Yeah, yes, that has happened. Yes, there have been, though often these are overturned by the courts, but only after being challenged, which can be expensive and time consuming. There have been instances of people enforcing non-competes on conventional service labor jobs. Literally like, oh, you don't like this job at Subway where your manager sexually harasses you? Well, I fire you, and you're not allowed to get work in any other low-paying job in the area because all of these other jobs are service work jobs. Like, there are some nightmare stories out there. Often the courts contest this, but again, like, you know, that doesn't necessarily solve the problem right up front. Dystopian? Vaush, 1 in 6 U.S. food service workers and 1 in 5 agriculture industry workers have signed a non-compete agreement. The theoretical benefit of a non-compete agreement is if you're working in some like insanely technical job and you've been provided a lot of on-the-job training. The idea is if your company has trained you for years to be really, really good in this new field, and you quit and you're like, I'm going to take all that knowledge and bring it to your competitor, that's the theoretical use case of the non-compete clause, right? But in practice, it's just a way of punishing people for leaving because then they can't find a damn job. So non-compete clauses need to go. They should not exist. They just should not, flatly should not exist, you know? This isn't like IP law, where I feel like there's some like, okay, there are some like edge cases where it's useful for smaller artists. No, just flatly, they should not exist.
Welcome back. The Federal Trade Commission has just voted to ban almost all non-compete agreements between companies and their employees. That new ban also applies to any existing non-compete agreements.
To break it down, the purpose of a non-compete clause is to restrict employees from finding new jobs at competing companies, both during and soon after employment. The policy is set to go into effect in August, but the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says it does plan to challenge.
Yeah, and sorry, the definition of competing company is pretty restrictive now, that literally all jobs are service worker food job or OnlyFans/live streamer. And now that those are the only two fields, basically everyone is competing with everyone.
Challenge this decision in court.
Joining us here on set to explain it all, Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Caleb, good morning.
Good ass suit. Just off the cuff right there, like that. Very nice. Oh, you can it's got the sewn buttonhole here, you know. That looks real nice. Big lapel. I like that.
Editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Caleb, good morning.
We had an idea.
Say that these policies basically keep workers from making more money or having the opportunity to go seek more money elsewhere. What do you make of that, and how will a ban like this change things for employees?
Well, for a lot of people that have to sign non-competes, and it's not everybody, but a lot of companies do enforce it, they could hop to another job at a better pay if they could just leave that job, but a non-compete prevents them from doing that. So the FTC has proposed this rule that says...
That's right. Up until now, non-compete, the YouTuber, has prevented... Sorry, it's a stupid joke.
It affects 18% of the workforce, or some 20-odd million workers, 30 million people actually, who can't job hop to get better pay. It also says it stifles innovation. If you can't leave from one job to another, companies can't innovate. You can't have new startups being formed because you can't leave your job and form your own company if it competes in the same field as your other company. So it says it's stifling job creation. It's costing more in healthcare costs. and it's keeping people in jobs that they don't want to be in for too long. That's why they proposed this rule.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. The FTC says it's stifling the job market, it's hurting the economy, but it keeps businesses from hiring essential employees. And right now we see just how great that need is with places struggling to hire. I mean, talk more about some of those.
Sure is cool how all of this is being framed entirely in the context of how it benefits businesses, you know? Which is another reminder that from the perspective of a lot of people who discuss economics, literally everything is in the service of capital with the idea that no one here in the opening discussion would be like, and it's pretty fucking weird that they can just keep you from getting another job, you know? Like, nope, it's not relevant. Sorry.
Yeah, let's say you work at a restaurant, you're a chef at a restaurant in a small town and you want to hop to another restaurant. You could be subject to a non-compete. So you can't go and take your staff with you. That's part of the reason they do this. But it's also for executives in companies that may be exposed to trade secrets or working on projects that a competitor might want to get their hands on by hiring that team. There is a stipulation in this new rule, Section 5 of the FTC Act, that says for senior executives, those making $151,000 or more, it doesn't apply to them necessarily. And this is not a done deal by any means. The Chamber of Commerce, as you mentioned, is suing. They say you can't do this because companies need to protect their workers, their trade secrets, et cetera. But the FTC says there's ways around this. NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, we have NDAs. If you leave a job and you have access to like proprietary or confidential information, we already have NDAs. We already have a system for that. That's not new. NDAs are widely used. That's not like a niche little, you can just do that.
Ways to protect trade secrets other than just by keeping people in the same job, not allowing them to job hop.
It sounds like there might be quite a few people then in the types of industries, finance, things like that, that this is actually not going to apply to. So maybe it's not quite as big of a headline as banning them all.
Right. $151,000 is a lot of money. And those senior executives who are making that or more.
Absolutely. Caleb, are there any downsides here?
The downsides, if it does pass, is that, yes, the trade secrets that you may be working on, maybe you're working on autonomous cars, maybe you're working on a great recipe, you can't necessarily move that from one place to the other. That could hurt companies. The other downside...
NDA. That's just NDA, yeah.
That the Chamber of Commerce says is that you are making it tough for companies to compete. The FTC says this is anti-competitive. This is almost antitrust. This FTC, led by Lena Khan, has been pretty aggressive. This is the first time in 50 years that they've tried to do an economy-wide ban of a non-compete clause and really change the way companies operate. It's got a long way to go before it passes. And then if it does pass, it's going to take 120 days till it goes into effect.
Yeah, this is nowhere near done, but the Biden administration putting this forward is a huge deal and very, very, very welcome. Definitely makes up for the genocide of the Palestinians. I'm over that now. Yeah. It's not actually the, I'm sorry, that was... I hope that gets read with the sarcastic tone it was intended to carry. Yeah, that's people in chat were linking that there's been like another wave. This is a very classic like pre-election move where you start doing good things all of a sudden. You have to keep those in your back pocket, or at least the promise that you will. Biden issues new rules for airlines to require automatic cash refunds, prohibit surprise fees. That's just plain and simple. Nice, you know, kind of does what it says in the tin right there. Oh yeah, they even have a White House brief on it right here. Will save consumers over $500 million every year in airline fees. Yeah, you know, it's good. Doesn't hurt. And then, of course, there's the restoring net neutrality bit, which we talked about very, very briefly. But yeah, just plainly good. All this is good, you know? But flying should be more expensive. It should be expensive, but consistent and reliable. We got more protections for temporary farm workers? No kidding. Hey, nice. Is this from the Biden? Oh yeah, from the Labor Department rule. Temporary farm workers will have more legal protections against employer retaliation, unsafe working conditions, illegal recruitment practices, and other abuses under a Labor Department rule announced Friday. Nice. Man, isn't it cool that Biden could have done a lot of this like years ago, and the only reason that he's starting all this now is because we're running up in the election? That's so cool. And I love having a system that incentivizes saving like a bunch of obvious reforms only for the for the last hurdle. Well, it shouldn't be subsidized any, I mean to say, since they are so heavily. New rules on overtime. Man, they are laying it out. God damn, you're oversaturating the f***ing Department of Labor business right now. Jesus Christ. A hard day's work deserves a fair day's pay. Our new rule will benefit millions of workers, including many who have been working 40-plus hours a week without any extra pay, by ensuring they gain overtime protections or a raise in salary or compensation level. Huh. Who will become eligible for overtime pay under the final rule? Currently, $684 a week, earning less than... Okay, so this benefits, like, the poorest people, it seems. Major student aid incoming? Listen, if he lays all this out and also does what he promised to do and deschedules marijuana, or at least pushes for it aggressively, and he might actually win back some of the voter favor that he lost with the whole, genocide business. Well, that's nice, at least. 30 million Americans. Do you think these things would make up for the genocide? I think that the Palestinian infants who have been mulched by American-provided Israeli JDAMs, if they could speak and weren't dead, would tell you that everything that happened to them was worth it, as long as you get the debt for your underwater basket degree, or basket weaving degree, annulled, and you get slightly better worker protections. I think they would say that. All the little baby corpses up in heaven are saying, yes, we did this for you. That's what they're saying. Do you think this was always the plan, to hold these policies back until closer to the election? Yeah, of course. This happens every presidential administration. This happens every time. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Voter attention span is measured in weeks. I don't really think that's true. I think it's true to an extent. I don't think that's fully true.